Hey everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show, powered by SoundCloud Studios, brought to you by our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Me and Wilson's You're Missing, available on Amazon and paperback and ebook. Coming soon, Missing 2, Double the Suspense, Double the Fun. Check it out on Amazon. Also brought to you by Sweet Psalms by Serena Wagner, based on the life of David, including 30 exquisite paintings and King David Psalms. Amazon.com, keyword Sweet Psalmist Serena Wagner. And also check out the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com, 50 podcast platforms, 110 countries. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok, also on Spreaker, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Apple Music, BitChute, Rumble, YouTube, and more. We're here with a terrific lady who is the founder of Illumination Partners and provides clients with 25 years experience in strategy and quality and operational experience, 20 years in the flavors and fragrance industry, which is making me really hungry right now, to identify, assess, and solve the problems preventing business growth. And also, she also has a podcast in the top 1.5% on Apple for nearly 5 years, and also has a new book to lift up CEOs by exploring the journey through the unknowns, guiding through the peace of mind as well. The book is called The CEO's Compass, Your Guide to Get Back on Time. Also host of the Drop-In CEO podcast. It's a great time to drop in, but live, ladies and gentlemen, Plus Dudes in beautiful downtown Cincinnati, the amazing founder of Illumination Partners, the Drop-In CEO podcast, and the book is called CEO Compass, Your Guide to Get Back on Time. Ladies and gentlemen, multi-talented Deborah Coviello. Deborah, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us today.
Oh, Mike, thank you. Thank you so much for that amazing introduction. I hope I can live up to all that cheering me on. But again, thank you so much. I can't wait to have a conversation with you and share with your audience.
Well, it's great to have you on board as well, too. I mean, 1.5 on Apple. I mean, that's a challenge for me right there. So I think I'm at the, I guess I'm being challenged right now, but that's a good thing. Competition's good. So in a good way. So I got to say
Yeah,
that.
well, I'm chasing Joe Rogan, but again, I don't compare myself. I just want to have great conversations with amazing people and build lasting relationships. So, yeah, 1.5 is pretty darn good. It shows I've been sticking with this, but you know what? You and me having a conversation now is so much more important than that 1.5.
You know something too. Before we get started, I just wanted to mention as well too that somebody asked me, "Are you going to catch Joe Rogan?" I said, "Joe Rogan can have his number one, and you create your own number one." This advice I got from a musician, Scott Page from Pink Floyd and Supertramp, great saxophone player. He says, "You go out and create your own number one. You get your people in, and they'll tell two of their friends." They'll tell two of their friends, and so on and so on. Remember that shampoo commercial back in the day? This shampoo's great, where I told two of my friends, and they tell two of their
So,
friends, and they
and
tell two of
so
their
on,
friends, and
and
so
so
on.
on.
You got it. And that is the way to go these days. So, with you being Drop-In CEO podcast, you're the founder of Illumination Partners, provide clients 25 years experience in strategy, quality, operational excellence, and also 20 years in the flavor and fragrance industry. You help assess, solve problems, preventing business growth with clients. You have a new podcast. We mentioned about that. You also have a book that's called CEO's Compass, Your Guide to Get Back on Time, lifting up CEOs by exploring the hero's journey through the unknown, guiding through their own peace of mind. And before getting all that, Deborah, tell us how you first got started.
Oh, like where was I born or how did the business get
Way
started?
back, machine, way back,
Way,
way
way
back
back.
into the
Okay.
TARDIS, good doctor.
Okay. Well, I am not that old, but I've got a long history. I am a Jersey girl at heart. That's where I was born over 50, 60 years ago.
It's
But
okay.
again,
I'm right up there, so it's okay.
but I'm such a creative, and the fact is that goes completely against my upbringing, where I finally went into engineering after being a creative, a writer, a speaker, somebody that loved to talk all the time, but I conformed to what was sensible in the day. Get a good job, get a good career, be able to be independent. So fast forward, good student, went to an engineering school, got into manufacturing after getting a degree in biomedical engineering. It was amazing, and I've had this amazing career where I have traveled to many many different countries. I love manufacturing, the opportunity to create something out of nothing. Again, a creative process. Cut my teeth in the areas of quality and operational excellence. How do I help to make things better, faster, cheaper, safer, and all the while kind of moving up in leadership because Deb can communicate in a great way and influence others. So continuing forward, I moved out to Cincinnati about 13 years ago for a promotion. I had arrived at the most amazing job of being the head of quality for North America for a multinational company. Came with a lot of glory, etc. But about 6.5 years ago, it got so stressful. After being very successful, I said, something's got to change. And I told my husband, I can't figure out how to calm myself down. All my coping mechanisms are kaput. Well,
I know
guess
how
what?
it goes. Yeah.
I got kicked out of the nest. Thank goodness I got
Ooh.
kicked out of the nest. It has happened to the best of us professionals. And I said, what's next? So I said, I am going to take a pause and figure out what am I good at and also what do I really want to do. So in that process of being off for 3 months around Christmas time, I said, I can continue to provide value to C-suite leaders, but I'm going to do it on my own terms. Small, medium-sized companies, manufacturing, flavor, food, fragrance, but I am industry
Ooh.
agnostic. But finally, I did find clients. I learned how to network. I learned I love the creative process. I was starting to guest on shows, and I said, I want to do that. I want to invite people to my stage and have podcasts of my own. So, after I'd been interviewed on a podcast and I dropped the line, I was like the drop in CEO. The podcast host said, where did you get the drop in CEO from? And I said, it kind of fell out of my mouth.
Oh.
And he says, that's brilliant. He says, what's the backstory for that? And I said, oh, there's a backstory. But after I share that, maybe we could talk about that later. I said, you know what?
Absolutely.
I got to own that. And so off of that came the podcast is the drop in CEO, and everything else is trademarked and off of that because that's what I do as I drop into businesses and partner with C-suite leaders. Along
Mm.
the while, like you said, wrote a book. I continue to figure out how to run a business, how to get new clients, but it has been the best discovery process and reinvention of myself after a wonderful career. And here you and I are now trying to create some value for our listeners and also maybe inspire them with something new. But I will just pause there. There's a lot of stories in there I can't wait to share with you.
In fact, I was going to think about with the flavors in the fragrance industry, and
Yeah.
I was thinking to myself about that. What are some of your favorite flavors and some of your favorite fragrances? It's like looking at that, it's like, oh my gosh, I can just taste it right now.
Well, I actually started out in the fragrance industry after jumping out of electronics manufacturing. I
Okay.
had just had my third child, and I said, I don't want to go back in the same stressful industry. I just want to go in as an individual contributor. Well, thank goodness for a company, IFF, International Flavors and Fragrances, saw that I had so much value and snatched me up. Well, talk about favorite fragrances. Yeah, they do the fragrance for Tide, Downy,
Mm-hmm.
major consumer brands, and fine fragrances. Mine happens to be Prada and Flower Bomb, Estee Lauder, all of the major things, Calvin Klein. What an amazing industry. Also, very creative and competitive. But in that process, the company also owned flavors. So I got exposed to flavors and eventually food. Fast forward, I am working for a company right now as a client that does ice cream and baked goods that
Oh,
actually go into ice cream like cookie dough. Talk about an amazing company. And yes, I'm getting hungry.
I was going to say, let me guess, an offshoot of Ben and Jerry's, right?
You know what? They don't compare themselves to Ben and Jerry's. They are going to create their own brand. They are going to be, there's no competition. It is this wonderful family owned business. But you know what? The feel, the vibe when you meet with the people in the scoop shop, in the manufacturing, even the CEO and his wife, a sense of family, a sense of purpose. I would say that's what they have in common. But they're going to rise above and just blow the competition out of the water.
Oh my gosh, I have to say this. Chocolate is one of my favorites. I'm getting that right now. So,
Isn't it everybody's?
oh yeah. I mean, better vanilla, strawberry, and everything else. You remember Baskin Robbins testing all these 31 flavors?
And Carvel, yes, I do remember. There's not too many left around like these days.
Not anymore. Or even like with testing and everything with COVID. It's like, oh, you can't test this, test that. Now you can do it digitally. It's like, I kind of took the fun of it. I like getting the actual on the product itself.
Yeah, but speaking of Ben and Jerry's, many years ago, I actually went to like their origin site up in Vermont. Amazing, amazing factory. And again, the flavors are fantastic. but we're getting pretty hungry now.
and hunger for more information as well too. And basically with the book, The CEO's Compass, your guide to getting back on time. And how do we get back on time? How do we get back on purpose? We'll find out in 1 minute with Deborah Coviello, the drop-in CEO. But first, listen to the Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by SoundCloud Studios. Visit online at soundclubstudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. SoundCloud Studios is the answer. SoundCloud Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@soundclubstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, time to give official shout out to our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson-Zia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you'll love Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon, paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. Takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, 1 target, where truth is illusion and those who love be the first go missing. It's available on Amazon and paperback and ebook. Missing by Mia Molson-Zia's garnered great reviews. An Evil Evan endorsed by Howard celebrities, including Joanna Cassie, Forrest Riley, and many others. So grab your copy today for it goes Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon. Coming soon, Missing 2 by Mia Molson-Zia, double the suspense, double the fun. Check it out on Amazon. Also brought to you by a sweet psalmist by Serena Wagner, based on the life of King David, including 30 exquisite Dame and King David's Psalms. The sweet psalmist gives new perspective of the Psalms he wrote and as the time of shipwreck started and complicated turbulent relationship with King Saul. It's a story of love, betrayal, repentance, hope, and more. Check out the Sweet Psalmist by Serena Wagner on Amazon. Keyword Sweet Psalmist Serena Wagner. Also check out the Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com. 50 podcast platforms. Heard in 100 countries. Follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok as well. Also on BitChute, Rumble, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, and more, and Apple Music. And for great gift ideas, t-shirts, pop sockets, throw pillows, tote bags, hoodies, Amazon.com. Check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. And for more great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com/Mia Molson-Zia for great books, merchandise, and more. And support the Mike Wagner Show on Anchor FM, PayPal, and the MikeWagnerShow.com. We're here with the amazing multi-talent Deborah Coviello, the drop-in CEO on the Mike Wagner Show. Before we talk about the book, CEO's Compass, your guide to get back on time. You're also founder of Illumination Partners, and you provide clients 25 years experience as well. So that's kind of like the foundation right there.
Yeah, but before we go on, I am a Jersey girl and a fast talker. I don't think I could keep up with that. You as well, but I guess from your years of radio, you got to squeeze every bit of airtime in there.
Well, you got to, at least you can hear what I have to say. That's good. So that's a good thing. So
No, it's amazing. But shall I kick it off? Like, why did I write the CEO's Compass, your guide to get back on track? Or what would you like to
sure,
know
why
about
not?
that?
Yeah, let's get back on track of being Foundation Illumination Partners. This crosses over to the CEO's Compass. You got to getting back on time and back on track as well.
Yeah, it's one of those things that when I started my own business, I was all over the place on LinkedIn and Facebook, and I'm just writing stuff and I'm starting to talk about things that I see about trends with CEOs, what they should do, what they shouldn't do. And somebody said, "Deb, we love your content," but they said, "We don't get you though." Like, what's your process? What's your system? Is it an EOS system? Is it a lean system? What is it? And I said, oops, I probably need to distill it down into what do I stand for? What is my purpose? And so sitting on my couch, making pictures of like, what is it that I'm trying to convey? First, it was a house, a tree, etc. And then all of a sudden it came to me with the 7 major thoughts that I have to get peace of mind, which was the 8th item. I said, it's a compass. And so I realized what I had to say was about getting back to true north, gaining back confidence and being able to get back in the saddle if you're off track, with the 7 compass points being, you might be a little off here and a little off there, but if you use my insights and just go a little west or a little bit east, you're going to eventually get back to peace of mind, which is quite different than just getting results. And we could talk about that. But ultimately, it's what helps a CEO or C-suite leader get back to peace of mind, get back on track, and do the great work that they've been able to do in the past, but they may have gotten on track and don't know why.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what the book's about.
And do you think at which point in time as well, too, that it used to be that the CEOs, found peace, found ways to keep the company, but then it's like they're getting pressured into profits and also pressured into results. At what point do you think it started where it's like, profits and also a result, really start dominating over peace of mind and just getting things organized. Because that's
Yeah,
been
I
a
mean,
lot where people get burned out. It's like, they're complaining about the fact that, everybody preaches, quality, safety, take your time, do it right. Instead, it's, profits, getting it out really quick, cutting corners. At one point, do you think it's really gotten emphasized where it's like, profits, we got to get it done, everything, instead of like, hey, let's be mindful about it.
well, let me just tell a quick story because it's one of those things that we're only trained to get results. Again, as an engineer, you get paid for getting that results. Bottom line, it's quite visible. But the greatest leaders are visionary and say, wait a second, I need to have the right people on the team with the right skills and be patient because sometimes we go for the quick results. And to your point, we burn out the teams, we burn out the C-suite leader. And what happens to the next quarter when you don't get the results? You beat people again. That's how we're trained. What we don't do is teach leaders to have discipline. We hire great people into organizations, but then what happens? We don't have the systems to help elevate them, give them the essential skills. We promote people in organizations and don't help them to be leaders. And so, one of the things that I really emphasize here is be a disciplined leader. Your role is not to be the smartest person in the room and to get the results, but it is to unleash the potential of the people on your team. Remove the confidence barriers, remove any capacity or capability, help the people to interact with each other. You do that, one, you leave your legacy. And two, the potential ultimately gets to a place where you could just step back and say, they got this. And I'll tell you, peace of mind, I have seen this in business. We had a major cross contamination and a customer complaint. But we started doing training videos to show people this is how you do it and don't ever make a mistake again. An
Right.
operator, yeah,
Or even cut corners, which is worse as well, try and get the result. Cutting corner has been the biggest thing. And I tell people it's like, don't cut corners. You're gonna really like mess things up. You're trying to build a house. It's like, you try to start from the roof, the concrete, you rush, and it's like everything falls apart.
I get it. Short-term gains, long-term pain. So so this person who wanted to be in the training video, he was just a technician. I said, "Okay, do you want to do the training?" And one of the things he said is, "Okay, here, do A, then do B, and do C." But here's the thing, if you don't do this in the right order, your customer is going to have this kind of experience, and this is the impact on the relationship. And I stood back while I was filming this and I said, "Oh my, the person who is closest to your customer knows exactly what they're doing and why they're doing it and what the impact is." And I got chills in that moment. I said, that's peace of mind that we did everything right and got to the person closest to your customer, that they are protecting them. And I said, that's peace of mind. And when you can see your team firing on all engines and taking care of the business and their customer, that's peace of mind. And I wonder to your listeners, how many people actually experience peace of mind, or are they just worn out trying to get results?
And of course, there's also a thing too with corporate destabilization as well. The ultimate silent business killing and destabilization. I mean, that's getting me like buzzkill.
Well, a lot of people ask about that, and I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer. Corporate destabilization sounds so scary, but you know what? They did it to themselves. The problem is we hire great people. They deliver on those results. We elevate them to a manager, a director, and then all of a sudden, these people fall into a place of not performing because we didn't teach them how to be leaders and manage people and gain consensus and handle difficult situations. And when they lose their confidence, the people in their care lose their confidence as well. And slowly, little by little, people start going into the bottom of the nine box. They're not performing as well. People leave the organization, and it's a silent killer, to your point, where all of a sudden you lose your intellectual property, your investments, and then you got to rehire. That's what I mean by crumbling down at the bottom, corporate destabilization. So, CEOs, C suite leaders out there, start investing in people as a profit center. Otherwise, what you've tried to build is just going to fall apart. And the next thing you know, you're going to be chasing results and customers are going to leave you.
Right, exactly. And there's also feedback as well too, open door policy, whatever else. And feedback's the most important. But I hear some complaints from people saying that the feedback they get is either negative or the feedback is they're hardly getting feedback, and the feedback they may get some backlash.
I mean, I have so many stories about what my approach is to teach people how to ask for feedback or how to give for feedback. But one of the most terrible, terrible things that happened to me was my husband was in the hospital laying in
Ooh,
bed and he was going through a real rough patch. And I got a call from my boss because we were scheduled for my final end of year review. And
ooh.
I said, just go ahead and give it to me. And I had been having some struggles, but I got hit, but with a below target performance. And it was the first time I was being confronted with any of the issues. And it was demoralizing because, one, I shouldn't be just hearing about it at a mid year review. And here's the worst thing after I got that review and I said, okay, here's where I wasn't performing decision logic, organization. I take courses, I start doing better. And not once did my boss even say, and how's that course going? How did you apply you learning? People are just so focused on getting results that they are scared of or don't have the time for employee development. I start all my one on ones with people with what do you need? How can I help you? What do we need to do to develop your skills? Then and only then we'll talk about the results in the projects. So, again, feedback guys out there, please learn how to give feedback timely, often. And I've got a framework that you should talk about what people should continue, start, or change, all positive. So again, more to come if you want on how to give positive feedback, but it's again part of that corporate destabilization.
Hmm.
But I could continue on a little bit if you'd
Of
like.
course, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah.
I'll let you do that. You don't just say more to come. Go ahead and talk about it. This. Is
Okay.
your hour here, Deborah. It's your
It's your
hour.
show though. You're giving me
You got
permission.
it. It's your hour. You're the star on it. You're the star, Deborah. Go ahead.
Okay, well, thank you. And again, I stole this shamelessly from somebody who reported to me. And he said, when giving feedback, we should talk about what we should continue doing, which is our zone of genius. We'll continue to excel. And if you give feedback, you might want to say, well, you might want to start doing this, something to add to what you're already doing well, and something you should change that if you don't change it now, might not be a big thing, but they're going to bother people and may detract from your zone of genius. So, the story, this person who was in my care, a great subject matter expert, gave an amazing presentation. But I said, can I give you some feedback? And I used his own language. I said, you know what you want to continue doing? Your voice. It's compelling. Continue to deliver all that critical information. But do you know what you might want to start doing? He says, what? I says, stand while you're giving that information because most people sit behind their computer. I said, when you stood, the energy that you exuded was like 10 times higher. You should have seen the people leaning into you. You captivated them. And he says, great, I can do that. I said, finally, you know what you might want to change? Permission to tell you. He said, what? He said, your hands were moving around a little bit too much. You were
That's
kind of
because you're Italian.
vigilant.
That's why you speak with your hands.
Yes.
Italian. You speak with your hands.
Yeah, again, I can't talk with my hands behind my back, but anyway,
Oh, that's
uh,
okay. You can do it. Speak with your hands.
yeah, well, it helps me keep my balance and all the energy up. But it was one of those things I said, maybe you want to ground yourself, have a pen in your hand, maybe one hand in your pocket, ground yourself so it doesn't detract from what you're doing. And I will tell you, all of this was positive. I didn't say stop, throwing your hands around. I didn't say stop this or stop that. Negative feedback is going to turn people away from feedback. This
Exactly.
I know.
Exactly.
I know. And again, we've never given people a framework, but gosh, by golly, this person who worked for me was finally sought out in global capacity for their advice and their inspiration. So giving people positive, actionable feedback is a gift to them because you can just watch them unleash their potential. And again, it was a major impact to the way my region performed because of being able to give that feedback to that person. So
Hmm.
I,
That is certainly amazing as well. And of course, you talk about lowering the temperature, elevating the conversations, empathy, and patience. What does it mean by for you lowering the temperature? Not the air conditioning, but lowering the temperature.
So, Mike, this is something where, I talked about early in this podcast where, I'm a trained engineer, I'm a problem solver. Drop Deb in and she can solve any problem. But if you've been listening to my voice, I've been told that it is very soothing and calming. And I've had people tell me amid chaotic situations that I listen very well. With all the noise and all the data being thrown around, hurry, scurry, the sky is falling. But I wait till the very end and I reframe what I've heard. And I deliver it in a way concisely. This is what I think the problem is and the approach that we need to take. And immediately it calms the room down and we focus the energy. And I had somebody say to me, this is like 10, 15 years ago. I said, Deb, you just have a way of just quieting things. lowering the temperature. And my husband likes my voice as well, so maybe there's something soothing in there.
What's
So
for dinner?
so this voice of mine is a gift. It is my ability to connect with humanity, but it is one of my superpowers to lower the temperature, draw people in and focus.
And certainly did as well too. Of course, you talk about the CEOs, trying to get results, and it's been really the big thing. What is that little secret that CEOs don't really want to share as well? It's like they let their secrets, but what's that one little that they don't want to share?
Yeah, I talk about this. Thanks for asking me this. And again, if there's any leader, I don't care if you have people that you're responsible for, what have you. Um, One of the little secrets is their pride stands in the way. They have been so successful up to this point, and then when conditions change in an organization and all of a sudden the customers are complaining or people are leaving, they just muscle through it because they've been conditioned to, if I just work harder and bring in more resources, I'm going to get through this. And the best leaders are the ones that have the self-awareness that, you know what? I've exceeded my capacity and capability to do this themselves and have the courage to ask for help. But the pride stands in the way. So I want anybody out there, if you're being faced with some challenges, the biggest challenge is you. Look inside, find out what is holding you back, eat your pride, send it out the door. And if your team needs you to have the strength and courage to ask for external help, do it. And again, in my last corporate job, I had some major quality issues. And I probably waited a little bit too long to ask for the cavalry. But eventually the cavalry came in. We were successful. We mitigated the crisis. But I think it was one of those life lessons that might have led to my demise and perhaps being let go from the company. Don't let
Mm.
that happen to you. Have the courage to ask for help. That's the secret that I think a lot of CEOs kind of avoid or don't acknowledge.
And of course, what are some of the ways they can ask for help without sounding confrontational, argumentative? You're like, like that's like you get some of that in the
Yeah.
world these days. Asking for help's like, the best way to do it or the calm way to do it.
There are so many ways, and the art of using the language is very, very powerful. So it's about removing negativity and putting in the positivity or putting things in the framework of risk or opportunity. Again, financial people, CEOs know about risk and opportunity. But if you don't want to say, like, I'm scared, this is a scary place right now, you might want to say something. I propose we might take a different approach when faced with this problem. There's a big risk right now that if we keep doing what we're doing, we may lose customers and market share. Might a fresh perspective from somebody that we know come in and take a look, and maybe we're missing something. And with that, we'll have the knowledge and insights to close any of those gaps. Now, what was scary about that? It's a proposal. That's what leaders do. It is
Mm.
asking for help, but in a way that shows strength. It is
Hmm.
a sign of strength to ask for help. And again, I've made these mistakes. And that's what I'm saying to leaders out there, because I'll tell you, when it comes to being the drop in CEO, I will partner with anybody if you're in crisis or chaos. But the smart, aware leader, if you're starting to get that uneasy feeling in your stomach, again, in my first chapter, The CEO's Compass, I say, I see you looking out the window, wondering how you're going to get through this crisis. I propose to you, as soon as it starts feeling uncomfortable, listen to the chemistry of the butterflies in your stomach. Start thinking about who can be a trusted partner for you. So, again, have the courage to ask for help and start now before it's too late, because then it's
Hmm.
going to be much more expensive and damaging.
Exactly it. And of course, you being the drop-in CEO, I think that's what we'll start calling you from now on. You also have a podcast. We'll talk about that with Deborah Coviello. You listen to the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com, powered by SoundCloud Studios, brought to you by our official sponsor, the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson's The Missing. This week's psalmist by Serena Wagner, based on a life of David, including 30 exquisite paintings in Ken David Psalms. Join the journey of David at Amazon.com. Keyword Sweet Psalmist Serena Wagner. Back with the multi-talented Deborah Coviello, the drop-in CEO, after this timeout. We're back with author Deborah Coviello, the drop-in CEO here on the Mike Wagner Show. Great book out there, The CEO's Compass, your guide to get back on track. And you also got the CEO podcast. So tell us more about the drop-in CEO podcast.
Oh, the podcast. Again, it was one of those things that I hadn't thought about doing it when I started my own business. I hardly ever listened to podcasts until, like I said, I got kicked out of the nest and I started listening to podcasts. I started crying while I was listening to them saying, I can still do more. And I was one of them was called The Creative Warrior. And I said, That's me.
Oh,
That's me by Jeffrey Shaw, who has also been a guest on my show. He's written other books since then. But it was one of those things that I had the inspiration of one, I could start my own business. And then in that time where I was starting to play around on LinkedIn, there were people looking for guests to be on their show. And I got the bug. I just love being on my toes, answering questions, providing value to the host. And I said, I want to be on more. And I started chasing other guests or hosts. And then it was tough. And I said, I don't want to chase anymore. Remember, as a little girl, I remember being 5 years old, being on a stage, singing and dancing, because I was probably the most talkative and articulate person. I said, There's something there. And by the way, I don't tell this much on podcast episodes, and I'm looking at a photo right now. My grandmother, Ethel, was a radio show broadcast host,
really?
WSOU at Seton Hall University, and the show was called
WSOU
You.
Seton Hall. Okay.
Yeah. Do you know? And she would interview interesting people. Not that she was the inspiration, but I said, I want a stage. And so after I met with one podcast host who said, Deb, the drop-in CEO is brilliant. It stands out. It's different. I went back to him because he was also a podcast production company. And I said, I'm ready to do this. But the interesting thing is I was getting ready to do my first solo. I tried it once, I tried it twice. I couldn't do it. And then somebody from my network called me and I said, I'm having problems starting this. I can't even push the button. She says, Well, what's holding you back? And I said, It's just me. It's in my head. I want to be perfect. I want to provide value. Well, I'll tell you, after that person jumped in, I pushed the button, recorded my first solo episode that aired February 2020, and I haven't turned back since. I've done one episode a week, I've done 2 episodes a week, guest solos. I love it. I love it because I get to connect with amazing people. And guess what? In the process, especially when I'm a host, I get so inspired by the people that I meet. I grow, I get free advice. And by the way, I have found my coaches all through podcasting and then just the fans. When somebody comes up to you and tells you how much that you enjoy it, boy, oh boy, does that fuel the engine to keep
Oh,
going.
yes. Oh,
Oh,
yes.
yeah. So honestly, I don't know when this is ever going to stop. I actually almost stopped recently because I was trying. It was just complex. It's a lot of work to put together a podcast, even when you have a great team. It's a bit of work if you want to do it right. But a spark of inspiration came from my production manager for the show, and she did something that gave me the signal, Deb, keep going, just keep going. And so now I'm going to do a little bit more solo episodes, put my voice out into the world, taking a little bit of break from having guests, but I reserve the right to go back to having guests on my show. But it's a journey of love and it's had so many great opportunities.
And I think the best part of being a podcast host as well, too, is where you create the content, you create the show, you control the flow of everything. And this is like reality TV itself right there. You see
Woohoo.
about reality TV, I think it's reality, but it's scripted and act out and everything. This is a real conversation, no edits or anything like that. So this is real. It's live. If a cat walks in, hey, it's all funny right there. So
And I have forgotten to hit the record button. Oh my, and I've had gracious guests that are willing to re-record. I've had everything happen again, from the dog barking to somebody ringing the doorbell to, oh, I lost the video feed. We, it's just, it's one of those things. Be in real life, be ready for anything can happen. But you know what? That's the fun of it all. Doesn't have to be perfect.
no, it don't have to be. I mean, back in the old radio days itself, too, that you had doors open up, somebody
Oh,
just says something out of the blue, or it's like janitor walks in, dog barks, sirens go off, and there's no edit button. You can't go back. They didn't tape, and no cough buttons or 5 second delays. Everything was out there back in the early days of radio, TV. It's like you made a mistake. You better learn how to get over it. You improvise and everything else. So you think about honeymooners, everything is all improvised, but thanks to Jackie Gleason.
yeah, but let's throw it back to you. I mean, you asking me I'm on the hot seat. What got you into this amazing industry? I'm curious.
Well, I tell you one thing. I've been a broadcasting professional since 1982, and this has gone a way back. 18 years old, and I used to be a sports writer. I was going to grow up to be a journalist, sports writer. Write my fancy to write for the Cubs, the White Sox, the Bears, the Bulls, the Blackhawks. But then after a while of writing sports, I realized that I feel like I've hit the glass ceiling. I can't break. There's way too many out there that have better skills. And I turned to broadcasting. Someone looked at me and said that, hey, you got a great voice. I said, bullshit. I said that. And they looked at me like, yeah, you do. And here I was like a fifth grader. It was like combined Mickey Mouse scratching on a chalkboard. Think about it. That was irritating. But then after a while, I was like, hey, I do have something. And then after discovery, and people were like, hey, you ought to be on radio. And so I pursued, went to Southern Illinois and finished up my 2 years after 3 years at Harper College in Palatine, Illinois. I worked at a number of radio stations up in Chicago, did Milwaukee. I took a break and then came out to Bismarck, North Dakota. And then I was encouraged by a publicist out in California that hey, you want to interview people? And I was like, no, it doesn't fit the format. I'm not comfortable. And it's like a piece of missing puzzle. And finally, second time, I says, okay, what does it take? Cost you nothing. Send it over. First interview with Sandy Hilbert and KFYR. It's like I was fumbling the phones and nervous. I was sweating like crazy. And after 1 minute, it was like a conversation. And that's what I'm having for you right now. It's just a plain old conversation. 2,000 guests later, and here we are. The Mike Wagner Show.
Well, that's amazing. And I hope to get to 2000. I'm right now at about 540. But God willing, I will do this. This is one of my purposes to connect with humanity and make a lasting impact on whoever's listening.
Mm-hmm. And I think as well, too, that not only you connect with the Drop-In CEO podcast, you also have the CEO's Compass, your guide to get back on track. You also have a notebook called the new CEO Playbook, Stop Chasing Results. And we talked about quit chasing results. You also have the playbook out there, and tell us about that.
Yeah, so it's still TBD. It will get written, but it's again, the CEO's Compass was for that CEO that was starting to get off track. And I share a lot of my experiences and advice. In the new CEO playbook, Stop Chasing Results, Start Pursuing Peace of Mind, I go deep, 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 much more detail on what do they need to do as leaders to be able to prepare their teams to be able to perform at their highest ability, because it's that peace of mind. How do you prepare your teams to achieve peace of mind? It's all that work that, by the way, they don't necessarily get compensated for. How much product, how many sales, how many customers, all that. I propose to them that we measure leading indicators of people development, measuring their actual performance and all of that. So the book's still got to get written. I do have a book coach, Judy. Judy is my book coach, and she's going to help me with the second book. It's just one of those things. I will be honest. You and I are just having a conversation as a business owner. I said, I want a new website. I want to do 2 podcasts a week with guests. And I want to do this, 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 and this. And meanwhile, my health is going to heck. I've gained a little bit of weight. And in real life, he's put the brakes on. And I realized I'm creating my own lack of peace of mind. So I took a bit of my own advice. The book will still be written. And if anybody's watching on the YouTube channel or whatever, there is this large post-it note below this beautiful picture that is all the framework for the new book. It will get written. It'll probably get written in 2025, published in 2026. But it's just to add on to my great insights where I see CEOs just needing something different than what they've been trained to do. It's going to get them a different outcome.
Mm-hmm. And I was just thinking about as well, too, if you want a real break, just have some ice cream.
Oh my God, ice cream fixes everything. As a mother, sometimes I would celebrate ice cream for dinner. It just, what, there's just it's not just the ice cream. It's not just the flavor. It's the whole experience around that. Again, this client that I have that makes ice cream and baked goods, it's not just what they do, but it's the deep sense of family creating those memories. So, yeah, ice cream. Think more about the memories. That's what we're trying to do in business.
Oh, yes.
And our pursuits,
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. And of course, ice cream goes with everything. And I remember going out for ice cream after a night of being at the batting cages, the go-karts. You go play pinball or whatever, like one of those parks and everything like that. Ice cream afterwards. Or if you're or if at the fair, Coney Island out in New Jersey, which that's on my bucket list to head out to, or even go out to an ice cream shop in Cincinnati, walking on the river as well, too.
Oh yeah, we've got graders, we've got UDF, we've got Aglamisi there. People in Cincinnati like their ice cream. They like their sports. We were talking about sports earlier. Again, Cincinnati is my new home right now. A wonderful city, a big, small city in the Midwest. I love the Midwest. But I'll tell you, New Jersey, ice cream, pizza, all of those memories are so interesting. So yeah, Cincinnati, sports. Anyway, we may have gotten off track, but hey, that's what happens on radio.
That's okay. It's part of the Drop In CEO podcast, and also it's not just about business, not about results. It's what they do. It's also special interest as well. It's not like you're tied to your desk, you're tied to your company. Unlike most places, if you're out in Asia, Japan, all that, they devote 24/7, 365. Maybe their leaders is like a golf outing with the company, so you just have that. But
Yeah.
I was just thinking about that. I don't know if you're watching Gung Ho that they tried with the manufacturing calisthenics. Have you guys maybe tried that like back in the day? It's like do some exercises, stretch before you get to work.
Well, nowadays it's axe throwing and all that stuff just to do the team building. But curious, I just would love to throw back a question. We talk about, this is so much more than just business. We're humans and we have other interests. I did share a bit before we started recording about one of my special interests, but I'm curious about you as well. Outside of radio and this great successful career that you have, what are some of your special interests? And then I'll
What
share mine.
What some of the special interests I had? We had kids in the house. We took them to ball games. We had the Dakota Wizards in town, Bismarck Bobcats. Being a sports fan, baseball, football, basketball, hockey, and taking them to sporting events, and our kids at school. My wife actually wrote the book The Sweet Psalmist. She was an author, put out her first book, and has a book she's trying to get out called Trouble in Time, about time travel. And she also stayed home, and she also does some upholstery work. Like she can take a couch and repulsor in an hour, makes dresses and stuffed animals, and does a lot
Amazing.
with clothing and everything else. And also writes a little bit of music, and just great things. And for myself, it's like I take up some other work as well. And I also go out and just I like to walk my dog Molly too. 8-year-old
Oh,
Beagle boxer, loves food, loves ice cream, loves everything. My goodness, yes.
Oh, yeah. And I used to enjoy those walks as well. Our dog has passed away a couple years ago, but then my son David, who's in the military while deployed in Europe, actually adopted a dog. And so after ours had passed away, we get this phone call from my son David, and he said, "Mom, I want to take this dog." I said, "There's an organization that will take soldiers' dogs that adopt them and bring them back to the States." I said, "But can you watch her for 8 months?" I said, "Okay." So this doggy Gabby came to us, a beautiful dog for 8 months. We fostered her, and then David was back stateside at Fort Bragg. I said, "David," I said, "when can we bring the dog to you?" I said, "I'm done taking care of pets, dogs, fish, ferrets from the past." I said, "I want my freedom back," but she's a delightful dog. We are pet free right now, but I do miss all those walks that got me a little bit of exercise.
That's a good thing too. Riding bikes, and boys went taekwondo, and playing baseball,
Ours as
football,
well.
basketball, hockey with the boys, and riding bikes, walks, everything like that. And of course, I don't need to go to the gym. I can just walk around the block outside Bismarck. It's like small town. You can do things without so many people around you too. So a lot
Yeah,
of
I've
good things, and
never been
got
to
plenty
North
of lakes
Dakota.
too. Uh
It
huh.
sounds like a wonderful place, though. I do. We talked earlier about some curling clubs. North Dakota may get me. I may get out there for curling. From what I hear, it's a beautiful state. I think my husband was in the military, and he was at Minot, North Dakota, back in the early '80s out there. And he says there's not a lot, but it sounds like since then it's built up a little bit.
It has built up too. And of course, I've had stories where people say that I don't want to go to Minot Air Force Base. No, no, no. But then by the time you get there, it's like they meet somebody, they get married, end up with a great job, and they stay in Minot. So that's the best place, land of opportunities. And I think what were your message right now for upcoming CEOs, current
Oh,
CEOs, and especially in this climate of uncertainty, AI, job uncertainty, everything.
yeah.
What's the one message you want to get out there right now in these times?
Make sure you have a support system because you're smart and you've been praised and celebrated for figuring things out. But what happens when you're missing some inspiration or you need the guidance from somebody who's been there and done that? I struggled in my career and I didn't have a mentor or a coach. And where would I have been had I had somebody that really cared about me and gave me the advice, both good and bad, for what I needed? So my advice for anybody, whether you've been in business for 30, 40 years, or you're just moving into those management leadership roles, make sure you have an external support system. It may not be a family member, it may not be somebody in your community. Get a coach, get a mentor, reach out to the Drop-In CEO. I'd love to be there for you at any point in your journey, and I've got people I can refer you to, if not me. Don't do this alone. Being self-reliant is wonderful, and it could be your demise. Get a support system.
Double-edged sword. That's how I call it. So double-edged sword,
Yeah,
self-reliance.
exactly. I mean, you look at your superpower, somebody that is a very eloquent speaker and speaks all the time, that is their superpower. That's how they got into those C-suite leadership positions. But examine that. Do you talk too much? Do you talk first before listening to your people? Do a little self-reflection and make sure that you're not overusing some of those superpowers because it could be hurting people and you don't want to do that.
Right, exactly. And I think that's a really good point as well. In the meantime, where can we find CEO's Compass? Where can we find the Drop-In CEO podcast and all your works at, Deborah?
So go figure. My website, dropinceo.com. Go to my contact page, reach out to me, dropinceo.com. That's where you can find me, connect with me, and many of my offers.
We will certainly do that as well. We're here with the multi-talented Deborah Coviello of the Drop-In CEO here on the Mike Wagner Show. Deborah, a few more things here. What else can we expect in 2025 and beyond?
Oh my God. More speaking. Gosh, that's my zone of genius. So I am looking forward to guesting on more shows. I am looking forward to being on a few more stages. I want to share my thoughts and the thoughts of others to inspire many people. I love dropping into businesses and working one by one with CEOs and their teams, but I think my greater purpose is getting on larger and larger stages to connect with you, get to know you, and also share my insights so you don't have to struggle as much. So more to come, more of Deb out on the stage, reaching out to humanity and people like yourself, Mike. But Mike, you've been wonderful, a great host, and I appreciate you having me on the show.
And I hope you learned something in this as well, too. And so that's why I like people to do. You learn from people and learn from each other. And I think that's great. I really appreciate it. And who do you consider biggest influence in your career?
My biggest influence in my career. Oh my God.
Anything.
Anything. I will just say that when I decided to start my own business, two authors, Jeffrey Shaw and Dory Clark. Dory Clark, whose works I read, talked to me about standing out. Standing out, don't hide behind. You've got something to say. Stand out and play the long game. Those are some people that during that journey of being my own boss, I learned from, and they've inspired me, and here I am.
That is certainly amazing. And you got to point greatly. And what's the best advice you can give to anybody at this point?
Just trust your gut. Trust your gut because so often we intellectualize things and we're taught not to feel or what's in our heart and our stomach. That's your body telling you something and it's your best friend. Trust your gut.
Right, exactly. I think that needs to be taken seriously. We're here with the multi-talented Deborah Coviello of the Drop-In CEO and also CEO's Compass, your guide to get back on track here on the Mike Wagner Show. Deborah, very, very thank you for your time. You've been absolutely amazing. Learned a lot. Looking forward to having you soon. Keep us up to date. Keep in touch. Glad to have you back. And what's your website? How do people contact you? Where can people purchase, check out your book, and check out your podcast?
Again, go to dropinceo.com, dropinceo.com to learn more about me, contact me, and find out about my book and my podcast. Again, Mike, thank you so much.
And thank you as well, too. I'm looking forward to having you soon. Keep us up to date. Keep in touch. Glad to have you back. We wish you all best. And Deborah, you definitely have a great future ahead of you.
Thank you.